Alrighty, hey, listen up, listen up. Awesome. Well, welcome, Chili Peppers, and I've actually invited some other students, some family members, and some sixth graders who I've taught before. Maybe I haven't, just to come and listen to this awesome story. So, hello to everybody, and particularly my class. I'm glad you didn't forget. Hey, listen up, listen up. So, I just want to start off by talking a little bit about this week's ELA focus, and even if you're not in my class, this is something that you can definitely relate with. And then we're going to go into chapter 3 of Freak the Mighty. So the first thing I want to talk about is theme. This week we're going to be focusing a lot on the theme of a story and the theme of a video. Monday, I know that I'm having you analyze a video, but we're going to get into some stories as the week progresses. So what is the theme? What is the theme? The theme is always going to be, I know in my class we say, the heart of the story. What is the heart of the story? It's usually explained in like one word or a small phrase, but it's really going to be what the author wants you to learn. So when you read a story, you watch a movie, a video, when you're thinking about theme, what does the author want you to take from it? What does the author want you to learn or know? A lot of times it's like a lesson about life. It's the heart of the story, okay? So some common themes that you can see is friendship, courage, honesty. I wrote some down here: hope, overcoming challenges, equality, hard work, loyalty, friendship, courage. Those are all common themes. So it's not something that you can go back into the chapter and look for, like, what was the theme? It's something that you infer. So it's something that it's a question that you have to ask yourself and you have to infer it. So it's not something that you're gonna see as an answer and you can go back and cite. It's gonna be something that you're gonna use clues from the story and infer. Okay. So again, the theme is gonna be the heart of the story, the lesson that the author wants you to learn. So that's gonna be this week's focus is going to be the theme. And there's so many different types of themes out there, but just remember it's going to be like a one word or a small phrase. Okay, so that is going to be the ELA focus. Now we're going to go into our novel study. So last week I posted chapters 1 and 2 that I read, and I kind of want to recap on chapter 2 and some of the questions I wanted you to focus on. So the one is going to be Freak. So Freak is actually one of the main characters in the story, and at the beginning of the story, he's kind of described as a student in the daycare that's not always there. He kind of appears, reappears, he leaves. Max sees them in like a lower grade level, but now he actually has moved in down the street. And Max is he remembers him and he's almost like fascinated with him. He's very curious because he remembers him from daycare. Another thing is I wanted you to explain the basement, which is a setting in this story. So Max describes it as his own private thunder from down under. I wrote down, and it's really the basement, and it's what his grandparents have him staying in, and he likes it, and that's how he kind of explains it, and he kind of uses it as his escape. Okay, so a little recap from chapters 1 and 2. Freak is now moved down the street, and we're gonna go into chapter 3. And the question, I'm just have you guys focus on one question from this chapter, is I really want you to pay attention to Freak's physical characteristics. So when we're looking at different characters, it's important to really kind of absorb everything that you can about that character. And I want you to focus on physical. So physical is like features of his body. I want you to really listen and see what physical characteristics that you can infer from this chapter. And this chapter is called The American Flyer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And yeah. Okay, back to the down under, right? My mom in the basement. Scuttle into your dim hole in the ground, Maxwell dear. Big goon like you, growing about an inch a day, and this midget kid, this crippled little humanoid, he actually scared you. Not the kind of scare that makes your knees, bones feel like water, more the kind of scare where you go, whoa. I don't understand this. I don't get it. What's going on? Like calling me Earthling, which by itself is pretty weird, right? I already mentioned a few of the names I've been called until the robot boy showed up. Nobody had ever called me Earthling, and I'm so lying on my mattress there in the great down under, and it comes to me that he's right. I am Earthling. where all of us are earthlings, but we don't call each other earthling. No need, because it's the same thing that in this country, we're all Americans, but we don't go around people and say, "Excuse me, American, can you tell me where the nearest 7-Eleven is?" So I'm thinking about that for a while, lying there in the cellar, dark, and pretty soon the down under starts to get small, like the walls are shrinking, and I go up in the bulkhead stairs into the backyard and find a place where I can check it out. There's this one scraggly tree behind a little freak's house, right? Like a stick in the ground with a few wimped out branches. And there he is, hardly any bigger now than he was in the daycare. He's standing there waving his crutch up at the tree. I kind of slide over to the chain link fence, get a better angle on the scene. What's he doing whacking at that crummy tree? Trying to jump up and hit this branch with his little crutch, and he's mad. Hopping around, just mad. Only he can't really jump. He just makes this jumping kind of motion. His feet never leave the ground. Then what he does, he throws down the crutch and gets down on his hands and knees and crawls back to his house. If you didn't know, you would think he was like a kindergarten creeper who forgot how to walk. He's that small. And he crawls real good, better than he can walk. Before you know it, he's dragging his wagon around from under the steps. Rusty red thing. One of those old American flyer models. Anyhow, this little freak is tugging it backwards a few inches at a time, chugging along until he gets the little wagon under the tree. Next thing, he picks up his crutch and he climbs in the wagon and he stands up and he's whacking at the tree again. By now, I figured out that there's something stuck up in the branches and he wants to get it down. The small, bright colored thing looks like a piece of folded paper. Whatever it is, that paper thing, he wants it real bad. But even with the wagon, there's no way he can reach it. No way. So I go over there to his backyard, trying to be real quiet. But I'm good at sneaking up. Not with this humongous feet. And he turns and faces me with that crutch raised up, ready to hit and slam it on my head. He wants to say something, you can tell that much. But he's so mad. He's all huffed up, and the noise he makes, it could be from a dog or something. It sounds like he can hardly breathe. What do? I keep out of the range of that crutch and just reach up and pick the paper thing right up out of the tree. Except it's not a paper thing. It's an old plastic bird. Lighter than a feather. I have to hold it, be real careful, or it might break. That's how flimsy it is. I go, "You want this back or what?" The little freak is staring at me, bug-eyed, and he goes, "Oh, it talks." I give him the bird thing. What is it, like a model airplane or something? You could tell he's real happy to have the bird thing back, and his face isn't quite so fierce. He sits down in the wagon and he goes, "This is an..." Miss A has been having trouble saying this word. Ornithopter. An ornithopter is defined as an experimental device propelled by flapping wings, or could say that an ornithopter, sorry guys, is just a big word for mechanical bird. That's how he talked, like right out of a dictionary. So one thing that I think the author wants you to infer about Freak is that he's very intelligent. He's very, very intelligent. Miss A could barely say this word. So Max says, it's almost like he speaks out of a dictionary. So smart, you can hardly believe it. While he's talking, he's winding up the bird thing. There's this elastic band inside, and he goes, "Observe and be amazed, Earthling." And then he lets it go, and you know what? I am amazed, because it does fly like a little bird, flitting up and down and around higher than I can reach. I chase after the thing until it boinks against the scrawny tree trunk, and I bring it back to him, and he winds it up again and makes it fly. We keep doing that. It must be for almost an hour until finally the elastic breaks. I figured that's it. End of the ornithopter. But he says something like, "All mechanical objects require periodic maintenance. We'll schedule installation of a new propulsion unit as soon as the fair Gwen of air gets a replacement. Even though I'm not sure what he means, I go, that's cool. You live around here, Earthling? Over there. I point to the house in the down under. He goes, what? And I figure it's easier to show him than explain all about Graham and Grim and the room in the cellar. So I pick up the handle to the old American fire wagon and I tow him over. It's real easy. He doesn't weigh that much, and I'm pretty sure I remember looking back and seeing him sitting up in the wagon as happy as can be. Like he's really enjoying the ride and not embarrassed to have me pulling him around. But like Freak says later in the book, you can remember anything, whether it happened or not. All I'm really sure of, it has never hit me with that crutch. So that is the end of chapter 3. And the question I want you guys to answer to go along with this chapter, and those of you who don't have this assignment, really think about it. Describe Freak's physical characteristics. I want you to be able to describe the features of his body and how they may be even different to Max's, even though they're around the same age. Thanks, guys.